Hey everyone, today is March 3rd, 2025. The current time is 4:04 p.m. Eastern. The markets have just closed. The NASDAQ is down about 2.6%. The Dow fell about 1.5%. Same thing with the S&P 500 after Donald Trump and his administration announced that they're going to go forward with 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico starting tomorrow, March 4th. But on today's walking tour, we're going to be starting off at Central Park South and Avenue of the Americas and walking all the way down to 34th Street, Herald Square. This is just the start of peak rush hour here in Manhattan. It's a beautiful Monday, so let's go ahead and get this walk started. The building right in front of us is the famous Ritz-Carlton Hotel right on Central Park South. Beautiful Art Deco building. There's actually quite the high volume of five-star hotels right on Manhattan Central Park South. You have the Sherry Netherland Hotel, which sits right on Fifth Avenue and Central Park South. Then you have, obviously, the Ritz-Carlton, the Plaza Hotel. And if I turn the camera towards the west, looking over Columbus Circle, you have the JW Marriott Essex House, which is a really, really great property that they just recently renovated, by the way. And then in the Deutsche Bank Towers, you have the one and only you have the Mandarin Oriental Hotel there. So we'll wait for the light, and then we'll cross southbound and take 6th Avenue all the way down to 34th Street, Herald Square. Potentially the very, very start of Koreatown. Oftentimes when we have the UN General Assembly meetings, there are a ton of diplomats that stay at the Ritz-Carlton, Central Park South. I believe all of the diplomats from Korea, South Korean diplomats, stay there. We're headed southbound coming up on 58th Street. But if I point the camera towards the sky, you're going to see the beautiful Steinway Tower. The address is 111 West 57th Street. It was built on the former headquarters of Steinway Piano. The developer is JDS, Michael Stern, and the architect on that deal was Shop Architects. That's one of the many buildings that make up New York City's Billionaires Row. On 58th Street here, that's actually the main valet. So the main entrance to the building, Steinway Tower, is on 57th Street. But the valet, where pretty much most people would be entering, right? Chances are, if you have the money to live on Billionaires Row, you probably have some sort of car service or chauffeur, so you never have to step out into the public in order to access your building. It's pretty cool. Then, of course, you have Extel's 157 and Central Park Tower in the distance. This is the One Hotel. 57th Street runs east to west. It's a very busy street. A lot of crosstown traffic goes through 57th Street. This is also the main subway terminal for the F train. Jamaica 179th Street and Steelwell Avenue. As the weather gets nicer, I'm sure many people will be utilizing the outdoor dining space here. This is turning the camera over to the east side. I'll try to improve the brightness. You can see 432 Park Avenue, and the black building is Trump Tower, and the building with that green and gold top is the Crown Building, which is home to the Amman, New York Hotel and Residences. There's so much scaffolding all over the place, which creates a lot of traffic for pedestrians, particularly when you have a lot of tourists around. Right here is an original cigar lounge, which is pretty nice. So if you're here for a business meeting or something and you kind of want to unwind, read the paper, Wall Street Journal, you can have a smoke in the cigar lounge if that's your thing. Since we're walking down Avenue of the Americas, we're going to see some pretty notable buildings. We're going to be walking past the entire development of Rockefeller Center, which is really one of the most famous and well-known Art Deco developments in the city that has recently underwent renovations as well. And they still have the ice skating rink up. We're also going to be passing the Hilton Flagship Hotel, which sits right between West 53rd and West 54th Streets on 6th Avenue or Avenue of the Americas. That hotel also underwent renovations after the pandemic. Not a lot of people know this, but the Hilton Flagship was actually closed down for a duration of time. During the pandemic, it was totally empty. And the facade of the building, they would light it up with a heart. So they would go into the individual hotel rooms and turn on the lights. So when you would look at the building at night, it would resemble a heart, which was pretty cool. It was this building right here. But according to the Hilton CEO, occupancy at many of their major hotels are totally back to pre-pandemic levels, and also business travel too is now back to pre-pandemic trend. More of a New York icon, I would say, is the Warwick Hotel, which is just off to our left here. They have a nice dining room, really nice bar in here. But unfortunately, the facade is covered in scaffolding due to mandatory facade work. Oftentimes I get questions from viewers about, why is there so much scaffolding all over the place in New York? Well, if you kind of pay attention to where that scaffolding is the majority of the time, it's predominantly on a lot of the pre-war buildings with the brick and mortar facades. And there was a law that was passed in New York City that requires mandatory facade work, because unfortunately there was a lady who was walking on the sidewalk and a brick fell and hit the lady, and I believe she was killed. So a lot of this mandatory facade work is very expensive. So the developers or the owners of the buildings, in order to kind of circumvent the necessary renovations, they will just leave scaffolding up for long durations. Here you have a really good shot of the Steinway Tower. That building has unbelievable views, not only of Central Park, but all the way down into Midtown Manhattan. We'll get back on the sidewalk and continue to go down. That's also something to watch out for if you're buying an apartment in New York in a pre-war building. I would really make sure that you check to see when the next mandatory facade work has to be, because the scaffolding will probably be all over the building for prolonged periods of time. Okay, this is now 53rd Street and Avenue of the Americas. You have the Charles Schwab building right in front of us, but if you were to make a left, this is a very famous building, which is one of the many buildings that make up New York City's Billionaires Row. It is 53 West 53rd Street. And they have a private restaurant called 53. There's a good documentary series on YouTube if you're interested in learning a little bit more about the very unique engineering that went into building that building. If I kind of turn around and go off to the side, you'll see the very angular designs of 53 West 53rd right next to MoMA, the Museum of Modern Art. Now, it's a very tall and beautiful building with sweeping panoramic views of Central Park and the East River and Midtown Manhattan. However, one of the main criticisms of the building is that many of these angular beams actually work to obstruct some of the views. If you think about some of the other competing developments in New York City at that price point, such as 157 or Steinway Tower, Central Park Tower, 432 Park Avenue, the views in those buildings are pretty much unobstructed because you have these really tall and clear floor-to-ceiling glass windows, particularly at 432 Park Avenue. Raphael Vignoli was on that project, and he made these beautiful 10-foot by 10-foot windows that are totally unobstructed from any beams or design. If you look up some photos of the windows at 432 Park, these beautiful 10-foot by 10-foot windows, they all come totally built out with a bench. So you could sit in your windowsill overlooking your view and have coffee, have breakfast, read a book, read the paper. Across the street you have UBS. This is now 51st Street, and we have beautiful views of Radio City Music Hall, which is a major tourist attraction. I would suggest during the holidays, around Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's, you should see the Rockettes, the Christmas Spectacular right here at Radio City Music Hall. It is definitely well worth it. And you could even see the spires of St. Patrick's Cathedral in the background. St. Patrick's is on 50th Street and 5th Avenue, so if we were to make a left, that would cross over eastbound to 5th. could also take the subway and get the B, D, F, and M trains. So if you want to hop on the train and take it downtown, it'll bring you right to 34th Street, Herald Square, in which case you could walk to Penn Station, where you can get the Long Island Railroad, New Jersey Transit, or the Amtrak train as well. Quickly turn around so you can see the entrance of Radio City Music Hall. Right on the corner of 50th and Avenue of the Americas. This is a new location of Arabica coffee. If you're visiting New York, one of the most famous locations, I'd say, of Arabica is right in Dumbo, Brooklyn. It has this beautiful view of the Brooklyn Bridge, all of Lower Manhattan. So check it out if you're visiting New York, Arabica coffee. But specifically try to make it to the location in Dumbo, Brooklyn. Maybe you could grab a coffee and take a walk over the Brooklyn Bridge to Lower Manhattan. This is now Rockefeller Center. This is the main entrance where you would go if you wanted to see the Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon. Again, beautiful Art Deco architecture throughout, as you could see. And if you go inside Rockefeller Center and go to the basement, you are set to be impressed. Total gut renovation. All new restaurants, all new cocktail lounges, sweeping views over the ice skating rink. They did a really, really good job. And there's actually set to be a conversion project that's going to happen right here in this building. Let me kind of adjust the brightness. So right where you can see the 270 Park Avenue building in the background, that kind of brick and mortar building is now going to be converted into a luxury hotel chain. I believe they are originally located in Aspen, Colorado. So as you know, a lot of the commercial real estate in New York City, particularly office, has been taking a pretty large hit. So developers are scrambling to do conversion projects for residential and other hospitality projects. However, many of the Class A office towers are doing quite well. It's many of the older buildings that are not doing so well, where you would have very high vacancy. (1221) Avenue of the Americas is the building just off to our right. If you're looking for a really good steakhouse and a very good time, the atmosphere in the dining room is probably the best in New York City. You should take a trip to the Del Frisco's. You have great views overlooking Rockefeller Center and Radio City Music Hall. Again, that is 1221 Avenue of the Americas at the Del Frisco's. Now again, there's a lot of steakhouses in New York that have better food. Del Frisco's has very solid food, but the dining room and the experience is a really good time. So if you're here on a business trip to take out a client or something like that, I would recommend Del Frisco's. It's in between 48 and 49 streets on Avenue of the Americas. Now you see these signs all over New York City, the JP Morgan Financial Centers, opening 2025. Now that was because JP Morgan Chase absorbed First Republic. So First Republic Bank is no longer, and JP Morgan Chase is now using a lot of that retail space where those First Republic banks used to be, to putting their JP Morgan Wealth Management and I believe some of the private client offices there as well. All right, I want to direct your attention over to the right. This is the News Corporation building, a News Corp. 1211 Avenue of the Americas. This is where they film Fox News, The Five, all of those shows. This is also the headquarters for the Wall Street Journal Barron's and now Investors Business Daily. So that is all under one umbrella, which is News Corp. My personal favorite paper about the financial markets is Investors Business Daily, or IBD. That company was founded by William J. O'Neill, who did unfortunately pass away. But before he passed, he sold his business, the newspaper business, to News Corp for about $250 million. This is now New York City's Diamond District, which is always bustling during the day. If you've ever seen those YouTube shorts or TikToks of those live watch deals or the watch talk, many of the videos are filmed here, right in New York City's Diamond District. And gold and precious metals are rallying in a major way too. Gold is almost at $3,000 an ounce, trading roughly at $2,950 per ounce of gold, as gold and a lot of precious metals like platinum, palladium have been in a roaring bull market. Particularly now, amongst all the uncertainty of the tariffs and the trade war. As we mentioned in the beginning of the video, the Trump administration has now given the green light for 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico to take into effect tomorrow, March 4th, which caused some increased volatility in the financial markets. This is now West 46th Street. This is the Marsh McLennan Building, 1166 Avenue of the Americas. There used to be a very successful and well-known quantitative hedge fund in this building, D.E. Shaw, or David Shaw and Co. But they have since moved towards the Hudson Yards, 1 Manhattan West. That's actually the hedge fund that Jeff Bezos used to work for when he just graduated university. That was his first job out of college. He was a quantitative researcher at David Shaw and Co. I always tell this story, but there's an interesting story about how Jeff Bezos started Amazon. And this was when he was working at D.E. Shaw. And his boss, David Shaw, he requests a meeting after work. And he says, let's go on a walk through Central Park. I want to run something by you. Let me adjust the brightness here. And Jeff and David were walking through Central Park, in which case Jeff Bezos pitched David Shaw the idea of Amazon at the time. And at the end of the pitch, David turned to Jeff Bezos and said, well, Jeff, this seems like a really good idea to pursue for somebody who doesn't already have a really good job. Meaning, Jeff, you're probably going to clear $1 million a year working at the hedge fund in your lifetime. Why pursue selling books on the internet when you could just, rake in the cash on Wall Street? Well, long story short, Jeff Bezos did not take the advice, and he actually quit to start Amazon, selling books on the internet. And the rest is history. Now Amazon is not only an e-commerce giant, but a tech giant with their cloud computing service, Amazon Web Services, or AWS. As we continue southbound, we're getting closer to Bryant Park, where you have two really beautiful buildings here. The tall building with that angular design and that spire sits right on 42nd and 43rd Streets. That is Brian Moynihan's company, Bank of America, which is a major investment bank. And then the turquoise green building on the south side of 42nd Street is Mark Benioff's building, Salesforce. They're a publicly traded enterprise software company that trades under the ticker symbol CRM. Their main core business is a customer relationship management business or software. I'm sure many of you who are watching this have used Salesforce in some way, shape, or form. But before we continue, I want to point out this building. This is a really, really exciting new development right here. If you can see that building with all of the arches for the windows and that crane boom hanging off the top, that is 520 Fifth Avenue. If you're looking to make an investment in New York City in a new development, I'd advise you to take a look at this building. It resembles 130 William a little bit, and it's stunning. So check it out. New development, 520 Fifth Avenue. I think it's going to sell really well. And look up some of the renderings online. But as that building comes together, it's looking beautiful. The architectural integrity of that building is great. I think it's going to be a wonderful addition to Fifth Avenue. All right, 42nd Street, everybody. And we have this great view over Bryant Park, in which case you could see the Empire State Building in the distance, overlooking the Stephen Schwarzman Building, or the New York Public Library. Turn the camera to the right so you can see the Salesforce cloud logo across the street. The main anchor tenant here is Whole Foods. Whole Foods, obviously, now under the Amazon umbrella. See a good shot of One Vanderbilt. All right, we're now at 40th Street and 6th Avenue. This is a very unique looking building to our right. This is the Bank of China. There's a really good coffee shop just to the right of it called La Colombe. This building is very pretty at night. Almost looks like a spaceship. We're almost to Herald Square, in which case you'll see the main Macy's to the right. Now this new building went up quick. They're already starting to put the glass all over the facade. This must have been under construction for a little less than a year. This thing went up really quick. Okay, West 36th Street. You can really see the traffic starting to pick up here, as well as the pedestrian traffic, as everybody makes their way to one of the busiest train stations in New York, Penn Station. That's all the way over on 34th Street and 7th Avenue. There's a lot of new retail that's opened up here. I remember walking this in the pandemic, and this was totally all blown out. Now there seems to be a new restaurant in every single retail outlet, which is great. If you like Korean food, there's a really good Korean place right on the corner here, West 35th Street. So if you come to West 35th and 6th, head over towards 5th Avenue, and there's going to be a restaurant called Hanbat, Hanbat. It's very good. It's like home cooking traditional Korean meals. Here is Macy's, as we've officially made it to Herald Square. Okay, we made it to 34th Street Herald Square. If you enjoyed that walking tour, feel free to subscribe, for more walking tours in New York City. And if you're thinking about moving here and buying a property and you need some help, feel free to reach out to me at the email address in the description, and I'd be more than happy to help you and your family find the perfect place right here in Manhattan. Thanks so much for watching.